We pick back up in Genesis 25 today, and we're going to begin in verse 29. Now, bearing in mind, we've moved from Abraham and Sarah now to the life of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham has died, Ishmael has died, and now Isaac is having sons. He has been married 20 years. He got married when he was 40, and Rebecca bore the twin boys when he was 60, and we've seen their faith, uh, an example in the past and in chapter 24 and 25. And here in the end of chapter 25, we really see something about God's prophecy coming to pass, and at the same time, we see Jacob's deceitful nature. Jacob is a trickster. His very name, Jacob, means like conniving one, manipulative. He is somebody that knows how to work things. Here's what happens. Now, we remember the prophecy that Rebekah was given by the Lord when the twins were in her womb, that there were two different nations, Esau and Jacob. They would have different nations. They would not be unified. There would be division, and the older one would serve the younger. They were twins, but Esau came out a few minutes earlier. He was the older brother. He had the birthright, which was very important for inheritance in the Middle East. So let's pick up in verse 29, and we see Jacob begin his manipulative ways. Once, when Jacob was cooking stew, now remember, Jacob was a man that liked to dwell in tents. Esau was a man of the field, a hunter. Jacob was apparently around the house. He was cooking. Once, when Jacob was cooking stew, Esau came in from the field and he was exhausted. You ever been there? I've been there before. You come home, you're just weary. That's how Esau feels. Verse 30, and Esau said to Jacob, let me eat some of that red stew, for I am exhausted. Therefore he was called Edom. And Edom is a word in Hebrew that sounds like red, which it was red bean stew. Jacob said, sell me your birthright now. Esau said, I am about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me? Jacob said, swear to me now. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Esau gave up his right as firstborn, because he was exhausted and for some stew. Now there's a couple lessons we can learn from this. Number one, Esau didn't really value his birthright very much. He's going to get angry later on because of some things that transpire, but he was willing to give it up. He's like, of what use is it to me? I'm about to die. He was just focused on the present. And any time, now there's other theological implications and stuff with this passage based on the book of Romans, but I think a lesson that we can take from this is we must be very careful when we are exhausted and weary and tired, not to make decisions in that time, not to make important decisions. Esau was weary. He gave up that freely. Now, it was in the sovereignty of God that this happened. God knew it was going to happen. God already knew what was going to happen between these two brothers and had worked it all out for his glory. God is able to take things that he does not cause and get glory out of them. Jacob is going to have one really bad testimony with his family. It's going to really look bad for him and his family life. But yet, God will use that strong will and that diligence, if you will, to get things, and he will break it and, well, not completely break it, but he will direct it toward God-honoring purposes. Later on, Jacob will wrestle with the Lord, and he will always have a limp because of it. but yet his devotion to striving, to keeping at it, not giving up. God will use those qualities in Jacob's life. But Esau is one that we will not see really change. He's one that is, kind of keeps to himself in a sense. He is a strong guy. He's a skilled hunter. He's, if you will, a man's man. And yet Esau is not going to really give thought to his actions. He just kind of does stuff impulsively. We're going to see throughout the scriptures as we journey on. And then he regrets it later on. And the scripture speaks about how even though Esau may get angry later down the road and even with tears desire to have back what he gave up, he can't. He's been flippant. He has not really cared about those things. He makes decisions really off the cuff. He only cares later on when it costs him a blessing. And that's a powerful lesson for us to learn in our lives. Are we acting like Jacob, or are we acting like Esau? And when we have opportunities before us to, if you will, gain something quickly, a windfall, we have a moment when we are Jacob cooking some stew symbolically, and we can, so to speak, give it to him in exchange for something. Are we trying to manipulate circumstances to enrich ourselves? That's not a God-honoring thing. Using usury, taking advantage of people, is condemned in the scriptures. Just taking from others to enrich ourselves is not God-honoring. And so we also can learn from Jacob not to be manipulative. Now, today's passage was a little bit shorter. But tomorrow we're going to pick up and we're going to see some things about Isaac. The story then switches back to Isaac's life and here in Genesis, and we learn some very powerful lessons from Isaac in comparison to his father Abraham. So next time, let's pick up in Genesis 26.